Good morning, Salamat pagi. That's as far as I know in Bahasa, so I'm sorry I can't continue. So my name is Tom. I work at Cloudflare. I've been at Cloudflare for quite a long time. I've been there for over 7 years already, but I've been working in this industry, especially in this part of the world, for even longer. So today, talking about demystifying peering. Wang asked me to do a one-on-one on peering, but rather than just being a boring one-on-one class, I decided to call it something a little different. So who am I? I've been at Cloudflare for 7 years. Network strategy, I've been doing peering there for much of the time, as well as the network engineering. I was at PACnet as well for 7 years. Unfortunately, that no longer exists, but I was there for quite some time, also doing peering and engineering. I've literally spent half my life doing peering. So hopefully I can introduce you in this. So what is peering? The word in English, peer, actually comes from an old French word to mean equal. It's between two things that are actually equal with each other. They're peers. But it's obviously grown far beyond that. In United States regulatory law, it's actually defined as the linking of two or more networks for the mutual exchange of traffic. Sorry, excuse me. And this is taken from a long stand in the telecommunications networks, where you actually had regulations on telephone interconnection. The networks had to be interconnected for people to be able to call each other. But peering is a loaded term. It's evolved a lot since the early days. When we say peering, it usually implies free. But that's not the case. Certainly not the case anymore, with a lot of networks charging for peering. It also implies equal. Again, that's also not really the case. Networks are going to be different size from each other, and it implies balance. You're not going to have a one-to-one traffic exchange. So we should use the term interconnection. And I know Arnold used it. Instead of calling it peering DB, it should be the interconnection DB. It's the same term. It's about how we can interconnect with each other. So what is interconnection? Interconnection between two networks allows exchange between those networks. It allows the networks to communicate with each other and the users on those networks to be able to access the internet. It'd be nice if all interconnection was equal, but the internet's evolved a lot in the 30 years since it's been around. We now have client-server connections. So a network like mine or like Akamai is actually going to originate a lot more traffic than they'll receive. So that means that the ISPs will always be drawing more traffic from content sources than they're delivering to other networks. So in and out ratios really doesn't matter anymore. It's not really relevant. There's a video from EuroIX defining peering. It's a very good video. If you want to see more, please click that link. I think these slides will be uploaded later. So why do we peer? Why do we interconnect? Direct relationships with neighboring networks. It's a very good thing to do. If I have a problem reaching Archie's network, I know Archie, I'm peering with him. I can just pick up the phone and give him a call and say, hey Archie, there's something broken, let's fix this. That improves performance. It means that when you have a one-to-one relationship with someone, you really know that there's a very small failure scope that could be broken. Improved reliability and resilience as well. So because you've limited that failure domain, you know that it's going to be reliable. And if it does fail, you know that you've got certain backup paths you can use. Better control of traffic. If all you're doing is exchanging between the two networks, that's good. That means you can control how traffic would flow, and potentially you can reduce costs. If all that is a cable between the two networks, that usually doesn't have a very high cost. Peering over an IX is very simple. It's a great primary secondary path for traffic exchange. So if I have a direct peering with Archie and that goes down, but we're also peering across an IX, it means we can have a failure domain as well that we can fall back to transit. This builds the networks to be even more reliable, allowing multiple failures to the internet to keep working. And this is how the internet's actually evolved. And I'm very sorry, I'm rushing a little bit. Better control of traffic. Now this is a very, very key thing. Some transit providers provide good BGP community support, and this is very important because you need this to be able to control traffic exchange. But a lot don't. A lot of providers actually don't provide communities, and so when you send your routes to them, you just rely on them sending them out to the internet. Sometimes you may get too much traffic across a provider and you can't actually control that. But in a one-to-one relationship, you know what's going to be exchanged with that provider. You can size it appropriately and you can control that directly. A lot of IXs also provide great community control. If you're connected to an IX that doesn't have community control on their route servers, you should ask them to implement that. The costing is very important as well. So IX and PNIs provide a fixed cost on peering. If you're using transit, it's usually priced based on usage. So you're paying on the 95th percentile of your usage. But an IX or a PNI, a cross-connect, is a monthly fixed cost. Your cross-connect may be, say, $500 a month, and the IX may be $1,000 a month. And you know that no matter your usage, it's going to be that same price. So it's very good to actually control the costs. Helps you forecast better. So is peering worth it? There's quite a bit involved. You have to build out a network. You have to expand and potentially expand just for peering. Archie mentioned that he was doing remote peering in Europe. So potentially he had to expand his network there. Staff. You actually have to have staff to manage all of this. And there's more than just costs involved as well. Sorry, I'll touch on that more. So like the build out, if you have to buy a new router to put there, that could be $50,000, $100,000 that maybe you didn't need to spend otherwise. Is it worth actually doing that? More than just cost though, that's one of the really important things, and going back to the relationships is, because I'm peering with Archie, we have a good relationship. And it may cost me more to put a router there, but it's worth it for that relationship. Who manages peering? So you have a few different titles. You have a peering manager. So someone like myself actually manages a lot of peering. An interconnection manager. This is a job description posted from Verizon showing their interconnection manager or interconnection strategy role. The peering manager is often handled by a NOC or an engineering function. If you're, I don't know if Facebook is here, but I think their NOC actually provides a lot of the responses to peering requests. When you email peering out, it just goes to one of their team and they're like, sure, we'll set it up. The same with Google and some other networks. It's the same with Cloudflare actually as well. As long as you don't need to actually do anything physical as across an IXP, it's very easy. The engineer can just type a line and it's done. So they turn that around very, very quickly. And this role certainly is not a salesperson. An interconnection manager generally looks at more strategically what the network is doing. It's often a dedicated role or a committee. I've been in both functions where it's just one person or it's a committee of people deciding. And they manage the overall strategy on interconnection, peering, and transit. Technical expertise for this role is certainly not required, although most people in it have a network engineering background. And again, it's not a salesperson. The interconnection manager certainly attends meetings like this. They're the public face of their interconnection for the company. So I know most of you know me already, but when you see Cloudflare and peering, you think, hey, there's Tom, I can just give him a call. And we maintain a relationship, so I've said this many times, and Archie's my good friend. We maintain a relationship to make sure that we can keep peering and keep that going well. Tools. Now, tools are very, very, very important for this job. Without the right tools, peering is incredibly hard. You need to have flows, so you need to be able to monitor what's happening on your network. You need to know your net flow stats, knowing where the traffic is coming from or going to. You need to manage your configuration, and you need to interface with peering DB. I can't get over the importance of using flows. You have to run this on your network to know how you're exchanging to really optimize your peering. You may be getting, let's say you're getting a gigabit across your transit provider, but you don't know who is sending it to you, so you don't know who to peer with. The way to solve that is to actually collect the telemetry from your network, which is in NetFlow or SFlow or IPFix or whatever protocol dependent you're on the routers you're using provides. You can do that. There's a lot of open source projects which will provide that. And if you don't want to do your own tooling and build it yourself, there's fantastic commercial services like Kentic that will provide that for you. You can just point your flow data towards them, and they provide you the statistics of where traffic's going to or from. A lot of companies provide a peering or routing portal as well. So here are some links to them. If you go into the Cloudflare peering portal, once you're registered, it'll actually show you how much traffic is coming from Cloudflare's network to your network, where the peering sessions are, and if there are any missing peering sessions. Similarly, Google's portal does the same thing as well, and Hurricane Electric also have a fantastic routing dashboard which can show you things like peering and routing and traffic exchange. So I highly recommend signing up for these resources for your own network, as they'll help you manage your network as well. Many IXPs also offer tools to make your peering easier. So they have the route servers. The route server is really important because when you set up a peering session with the route server, you actually don't need to peer with everyone on the IX. You're automatically appearing with all of the other members that are also using the route servers. So it's a great way to kickstart your peering world. A route server allows you to do multilateral peering across the internet exchange. So when you're on an IX, consider it like this room. I could just be talking to Archie and no one else really cares. I could just shout and everyone can receive it at the same time. That's what the route servers allow you to do, is to really reach everyone who's also connected to it. The IXPs offer traffic exchange charts, which is really useful as well. So once you're connected, you're on the route server, you're exchanging traffic, you can actually get detailed by provider statistics of where your traffic is going from or going to or coming from. Some like AMP6, I think DECIX turned this off a while ago. Did they? The per provider ports. Equinix and a few other providers also have those as well. They're really, really useful because it means that if you don't have that telemetry, you can actually see where your traffic is going to or from. I'm on the board of the New Zealand Internet Exchange, and we have a sample on there which you can visit at metrics.ix.nz. This is a snapshot from the Cloudflare peering portal. This is with Hurricane Electric, so it's Walt's network, and it looks like we're actually missing quite a few peering sessions. So I better send an email to Walt. This is looking at another network as well, and this is sort of showing the traffic exchange between Cloudflare and that network. So it gives you the ability to see. Does this work? Oh, this works. This is cool. That's really cool that it works on both screens. It shows you where the traffic is coming from. So you can see there's a large bump here in London. So my network exchange with this network, because you can see it's going, where is it, to Cloudflare. So I started receiving an extra 30 gigabits from this network in London. It helps diagnose issues, it helps forecasting. You can sign up to the peering portal, please do so. And of course, PeeringDB. You need to have a PeeringDB entry. If you're wanting to peer with Google or Facebook, for example, they won't peer with you unless you have a PeeringDB entry. So once you have an ASN, you're connecting to an IX, sign up to PeeringDB. I can't get over how important this is. And make sure the data is up to date. Make sure you list all the IXs you're connected to and the IP addresses that you have on those exchanges. Some of the exchanges will update those for you automatically, but it's very important that you have those there because networks like mine at Cloudflare, Google, Facebook, they actually use automation to set up those peering sessions, and if the data in PeeringDB is invalid or incorrect, we won't be able to peer with you. So how to peer? There's a lot of different ways this can be done. You can peer across an IX, which is one of the simplest ways, is one of the best ways to get started. Walt and I are in a constant competition to connect to more IXs to reach more peers. Currently combined, we're each connected to over 200 internet exchanges around the world. Private peering is another way as well. You can do it over a cross-connect, or you can even do a virtual cross-connect across a provider like Megaport. how to do it. It's done through email more than anything else. When I join a new IX, I'll actually send out 12 or 24 emails to all the members on the IX saying, Cloudflare has joined this IX, please peer with us. A lot of the IXs around the world will actually do the same as well. They'll say, this is our new member, Cloudflare, please peer with them. Peering forums for some face-to-face meetings as well, so we'll actually do some peering at meetings events like this. But how should you send a request? And this is also very important. So here's a sample email of me sending a peering request to Walt. Hi Walt, I see that we're sending you traffic over our transfer provider and it looks like it's about 3 gigs of traffic. We should set up peering. And there's some very important things to actually see in this. So in the subject, I've put the ASNs that are involved in the peering. So on the left is Cloudflare's ASN, and on the right is Hurricane Electric. This makes it very easy for the operator to identify it. Sorry, excuse me. If you can, you should list it. Sorry. Thank you. If you can, you should list the amount of traffic exchanged as well. So in this example, I have 3 gigs there. You should have a look at the internet. You should also list the internet exchanges you want to do the peering over. So in this case, I said JPIX. And let the other side know if you've actually configured it already. So in this case, I've said, I've already configured the session. It's just waiting for you. And here are my details for the session. With this, it means when Walt receives this, he already has the IP address, the ASN, and everything he needs to set up this session, and it can be done very, very easily. Around the world, there's a lot of challenges in different languages. Thankfully, here, English is very, very easy, so most people will be able to get through fine. But when you go to, say, expand your network into Japan, you'll find that most of the networks there don't speak English very well. And unfortunately, their email boxes will actually automatically flag an English email as spam. So it gets really challenging to peer there, but the local IXs will help you with that. Their job is to help facilitate peering, and that's the reason why we're here is JBIX wants us to peer. So it's very good that they'll help you, and they'll help translate and connect you with the right people. There's a lot of different peering policies as well. So peering is not ubiquitous. It's not always guaranteed. Across bilateral sessions, you've got open, restrictive, or closed. Bilateral being between 2 parties, and then you have multilateral, which is very open. So an open peering policy means you're happy to peer with anyone. It means that any request comes in, you're like, sure, I'll peer with you. This is good. This is good for the internet. But typically smaller networks will do this, and content networks. Much larger networks will tend to have a closed policy. Global tier 1 providers generally don't want to peer with anyone. They already have their policy. They're connected to the other 12 tier 1 providers, and they're done. They don't really need peering. You also have a restricted one. I don't think I put a slide in for it. Restricted means that they might decide to peer with you depending on how they feel. It could be that you have enough traffic to exchange, or it could be that there is some value to your network. For example, inside Cloudflare's network, we help operate some of the root DNS servers, which is very important for your internet access. You can't actually get to anything if you can't reach a root server. And so with that, some networks will actually say, yes, we're happy to peer with you because those root servers are very important. Multilateral, I was saying before that some internet exchanges offer BGP communities on these. These are very, very good. We love connecting to route servers. We're connected to route servers wherever we can. It allows you to reach everyone, and some of the providers you can actually close off who you want to peer with. So multilateral is really good. With peering responses, don't be afraid if someone says no to you. It'll happen. At some point in time, you're going to request peering with someone and they're going to say, no, I don't want to peer with you. Most likely the response is going to be, you should pay me. It's unfortunate, but it happens. Some requests need face-to-face meetings. A great example I have is a Japanese network. continued to ignore my emails. I finally found a contact number, called them up and said, hey, let's go have lunch. We had lunch, and they said, oh yeah, we'll peer. All it took was a face-to-face meeting. So sometimes it takes saying. You need to keep trying, but you shouldn't be annoying. If someone says no and you keep pestering them, they're probably going to keep saying no. So you've got to be polite. Provide data in your point of view. If the remote side says no, it doesn't mean that it won't change in the future. So be confident and get there. And that is the end of my talk. Thank you.